Does he come alone?
He comes with he comes with his family and two other families come in 1809. It's just what they do is they come to scout out the land. It's the three families come from they make a 13-month journey from Shklov to Israel in order to scout out the land and then see how to bring the other families from Vilna essentially and that area to Israel.
And that happened.
Wait. I'm trying to get my head around. If he went to Israel in 1809, and my Zadie was born in 1894, something like that.
Your Zadie was born in 18. I have it elsewhere, but your Zadie was born in 1894, I think.
That's what I just said.
1893 or 1894.
There were 5 generations.
We
in
multiply
90
a lot.
years.
Yeah, sure.
It's about 18, 20 years.
We have ways of explaining how that worked.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll show you. It's without giving away too much. We'll show you all that. So, a brief summary of Abraham from Shklov's life is that so he came to Israel in 1809.
Do you mind if I just show the maps too?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'm gonna share in the translation.
My Zadie was 26 when he came.
Really?
So,
Then he was born in 7. No, I don't know.
like I said, the journey took. I'm sharing my screen, Stu. Can you see
I
it?
see it.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you see me?
Yes.
Wow.
The journey took.
That's where they get to travel.
The journey took 13 months to get from Shklov, which is point A on the map up here,
Yeah.
to Odessa.
Right, to Odessa.
From Odessa, they took a boat to Istanbul.
Istanbul.
From Istanbul, they went to Izmir in Turkey. Then they went to Rhodes, then back to Izmir, then to
What?
Haifa. It took 13 months.
Unbelievable. Why would anybody do that?
They landed at the port of Akko.
And he had a family. You don't know how big a
They
family.
landed at the port of Akka,
Akko. Yeah.
Echo.
which we were at, right?
Yes,
We
we
were
were
at
at
Akko.
No,
Akko.
you didn't.
Akka, yeah, we were.
Yeah, we were in Akko.
Actually, the port of Akko, isn't that where?
We went.
They made the
Isn't that
exodus.
where we went to see the ship that wasn't there anymore that was so dangerous? Wasn't that Akko?
No, that was at Dead Sea.
Oh, that was at the Dead Sea. Okay.
Oh, yeah. No, but the port of Akko
They
was
made
a.
the exodus there. The movie
Right.
Exodus.
It's been in use since then, basically.
So, how many in his family that came with him?
I don't know if we know that answer. Do we, Alan?
I don't know if you know the answer to that either. I'm pretty sure it wasn't very many. It was either just him alone or him and his wife. I'm guessing. But
Actually, no. It was just his first son that was born in Israel was born in 1812. So that's 3 years after they went to Israel. So,
but are you gonna tell the story about the Machzer, Stu, or can I just really quick say it?
you can say it.
Okay, thanks. So real quick, back to the translation. So he lands, like Stu said, in 1809, and there's a very interesting thing that happens. He comes from Akko to Jerusalem, so he spends some time in Jerusalem before going elsewhere in Israel. And I'm not sure if I remember exactly when in 1809 he leaves. I mean, he gets there, but there's a very interesting thing that Dr. Israel Ben-Zev says in the introduction. I'm going to read it for you. Okay? He says, in the Machzer, the holiday prayer book, that the...
Alan, you have to talk. You have to talk softly.
Okay. In the Machzor, the holiday prayer book that belongs to our family, Rabbi Avraham Hadayan, the rabbinical judge, wrote the following after he arrived in Jerusalem, next to the Sound the Great Shofar for Our Freedom prayer. It's Tkaba Shofar. It's a very
Tkaba
famous
Shofar
prayer.
Gadol, you know that prayer? Tkaba Shofar Gadol Otenu. It's in the Shemona Esrei. There's a line that says Tkaba Shofar Gadol.
So our family somewhere has a machzor that belonged to Abraham Wolfinson. And in it, next to the Tkaba Shofar prayer, it says in his handwriting the following. On Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks, of the year 5570, that's 1810. So Shavuot of the year after they arrived.
You're breaking up.
You can hear him.
Shavuot of the year after they arrived. And I want to say something very interesting here. He makes the note of the date as Tekah, Bishnat Tekah.
Okay, Alan, you're talking too loudly. When you talk too loudly, Skype zones you out.
Okay,
so you got it.
I'm
I've
saying
got my
that.
volume all the way up, so don't worry about it.
Okay, I'm saying sorry. I'm also excited. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. The year Tekah, excuse me, is also the first word of the Hebrew prayer. So the letters of the word Tekah in Hebrew add up to the year 5570.
So the word, so you know how in Hebrew when you write the year, it's Haitian, and then the rest of the numbers are represented by Hebrew letters. So the year that he wrote that was 5570.
Right, 5570, which is 1810.
Shin Taf Kuf Ayin, which spells Tekah, which is the first word of Tekah B'Shofar Gadol Otenu.
Okay. So with that in mind, I'm going to finish the quote.
It's like which came first?
On Shavuot of the year 5570, I prayed for the first time by the Western Wall.
Wow.
You did what?
You prayed by the first time on the way by the Western Wall.
Oh,
Abraham Wolfinson.
So that might have been the first time a non-Hasidic Jew prayed by the Western Wall ever.
Ever.
It's the first time
Ashkenazi
a Jew ever prayed.
Ashkenaz.
Who's got this machzor?
That's a good question.
I don't know.
We don't know.
All right, Stu. Now for the cool stories.
Okay. So, a cool thing to keep in mind is that I should share my screen for this, maybe? Actually, I don't need to share my screen for this. Should I, Alan?
What are you showing them?
I don't need to share. We can just do this face to
Yeah,
face,
just
right?
do talking.
Okay, so this is happening in 1809, which is about 80 to 90 years before Zionism really became modern Zionism. Theodor Herzl was not even born for 80 years, and so
I thought he was the father of Zionism.
well, right, but
But this was 8 years before.
Oh.
what did you say, Marianne?
I said political Zionism.
Political
Very
Zionism.
particular, just a particular kind of.
Right. So, Abraham Wolfinson came in 1809 with, and we don't know if he came with his wife, but he had a wife named Batya Brina. Batya Brina. And they had, Alan and I disagreed about the number of children they had. Was it 4 or 5?
Well, Stu, if you want to pull up the genie tree.
Are we ready for that? Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Can okay.
Okay.
All right, you do it.
Okay.
Whatever you want to do.
So he had a family. He came to Israel, started himself a nice little family, and that was in the early 1800s, 1810s, and
It's not up.
he had a son named Zev Wolfinson,
Probably after his father.
probably after his father Zev. Right, and Zev Wolfinson. So Zev was studying in a yeshiva in Jerusalem.
Zev?
Zev.
So you've gone back one more generation.
No. This is Abraham's
Oh,
son.
the little kid.
Yeah. So the son was studying at a yeshiva in Jerusalem in 1837, and something else happened in Israeli history in 1837, and that's the great earthquake, the Great Galilee earthquake of 1837.
They had that earthquake.
In 1837, and it killed most of Abraham's family. Abraham was in Europe. What was Abraham doing in Europe?
Okay, so just a back up for a second. Really quick history. Abraham was in Jerusalem, as we know, in 1810. He was in Jerusalem for a while, but he was with a small number of people, just his family and a couple other people. He decided that he would call the other families from Vilna to come to Israel, and it ended up being 70 families. But instead of coming to Jerusalem, they would go to Tzfat, which is in the north.
Go to where?
And that's because of the Ottoman Empire,
Tzfat,
actually.
Tzfat. And so Abraham Wolfinsohns and his family were called up to the Tzfat community, where he could be the dayan there, so he could be the judge there. And so that's where he lived, was in Tzfat. And when this earthquake happened, a third of the Jewish population of Tzfat was killed, including most of Abraham Wolfinsohns' family.
Third of the population is fine. That's the outcome.
And so that killed his wife and all of his children except for two of them, I believe. And those two children are Zev and his daughter, whose name was Teva Fega, who, as a cool side note, Teva Fega grows up to marry Shneur Zalman.
Schneerson.
Schneerson.
Oh, God.
What?
Shneur Zalman Schneerson is the grandson of the Baal HaTanya, who wrote this book, and is the first Lubavitcher Rebbe.
Schneerson.
Seriously, he was a landsman of ours.
Yes, you knew that. See here, Bubby knows all this.
Bubby
You're
knew
not
that.
telling her anything else she doesn't know.
Yeah,
You're
but
just confirming it.
Seriously, didn't he do he was a mile. He came to all the
Probably.
weddings and he gave out mile cards.
Yes,
He
okay.
belongs to the Agudas Benoias.
Yeah, but that's his.
It's generations
Six times.
later, right?
But I want to make another really interesting note. Abraham Wolfinson, remember, is a Prushim Ashkenazi. He's a Misnagid. He's not a Chassid. And the Schneersons are very, very Chassidic. Shneur Zalman of Liadi was the first Lubavitcher Rebbe, a very Chassidic Rebbe. And what this tells us is
The first, Shneur Zalman was the first what?
Shneur Zalman of Liadi was the first Lubavitcher Rebbe.
So he married somebody from a family that wasn't a cousin.
Correct.
That's an interesting
but
point.
even more interesting is Abraham Wolfinson married his daughter to not just a chassid, a very, very prominent Chassidic family. And what that tells us is that Abraham Wolfinson was one of the, maybe one of the first people to really try and make peace between the Chassidim and the Misnagdim. And
the first
Tried making peace.
and that
By
fact
letting
is
his daughter
corroborated.
marry somebody.
Right, and that fact is corroborated by Uncle Strelick in the foreword. He says that very thing, and then also it actually has an effect. The Hasidim and the Misnagdim, the conflict is much less in Israel as a result of that, and Abraham Wolfinson's actions than it is in other places in the world.
Cool.
There are a lot of really, really great stories about Abraham Wolfinson and his whole escapades in Israel. And as Stu mentioned, one of the things was he happened to be in Europe, away from Israel, at the time of the earthquake because he was raising money for the community in Tzfat. He helps dry up the swamps in Jerusalem that ultimately become Mea Sharim. So he's one of the founders of the Mea Sharim neighborhood in Jerusalem.
Which is ultra orthodox.
That's where Arthur was
Right,
born.
and that's where Arthur was born. Maybe in the house that Abraham Wolfinson built.